I think we're live. I think we're live. All right, guys.
I think we're live.
Let's go.
Holy wow.
Finals.
It wasn't pretty.
That? Wow. I mean,
it was a gritty effort. It was frustrating as hell. But the Celtics are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Raptors are kindly asked to leave the bubble. And I think the Raptors are who we thought they were, and I think the Celtics are kind of who we thought they were too. Grinding it out. Not every shot fell, but they didn't give up. Marcus Smart's block, we got to talk about it right off the front.
Oh,
right off the
man.
top
I mean, two plays. Smart's block, Tatum's rebound. I mean, the Celtics went 5 minutes, the final 5.5 minutes without a basket, and they won this game. This was the hardest game to watch that I can remember.
Game 4 was tough, too.
If you add both the Game 6 loss and the 9 o'clock start, so you have to go through an entire Friday workday just to wait to get to this, and then through this game, which lasted felt like 15 quarters, and then watch as they missed 1 out of 2 free throws basically the entire fourth quarter, and with a 6-point lead and an 8-point lead, and turn it over, and then you know what's happening, and then Grant Williams misses 2, and you saw it coming.
Lowry had the momentum going too.
Yeah.
John literally texted us, "How many is Grant going to miss 1 or 2 free throws?"
Yeah,
and sure
you
enough,
saw his face. He was like this.
I tweeted it earlier. I said, "I'm having as little amount of fun as I knew I was going to have tonight, and I had to wait all day to have."
We said we were going to do this, so I'm going to do it, and you guys talk a little bit. I've had this queued up, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to do with it. So go ahead.
That game threw me for a loop so badly that I didn't even have a sip of anything tonight. Like I'm literally just watching. I'm doing my regular coffee thing right now because.
I was like, do I want to drink through this? Do I want to wait and drink after? I have no
Seriously,
idea.
It was one of those.
Right.
I'll tell you what. If they lost,
to Jimmy's point, excuse me. You didn't even want to you weren't even having fun through the first 2.5 quarters, maybe.
Oh, I wasn't having fun through all 4 quarters.
Through none of it. I
was only drinking because I was nervous, and that's just what I had no choice. I had to take the edge off. But I'll tell you what, if they lost the game, I'd be lining up shots right now. So I'm having a celebratory.
You might be lining up shots anyway.
I might after this show's over. Yeah, I might just wet the beak a little. But no, I mean right now a couple celebratory beers. If you're the Celtics, listen, you're happy, you're excited. You've gone further than a lot of. Pretty much everybody thought you were going to go before the season started. Obviously, expectations changed, throughout the course of the season and in the bubble here. But when Kyrie Irving bolted and Al Horford signed with the Sixers and the Celtics, looked like they were scrambling a bit, they bring Kemba Walker in. Nobody expected them to be going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't care what you say, right? I mean, and here they are. And not only are they going to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they're kind of looking like they're in the position to go a little bit further.
Jimmy, if we queued up a couple of those videos that we did, that you guys did, across the street from the Garden, when free agency was going down, I think you were there with us.
Yeah, memory. What was that like? Tell me what.
And it was a grim picture. And guys, I'm just tweeting out that YouTube link if you want to grab it and send it out to people to join us or watch us on Twitter here. It doesn't matter. Literally everywhere we're streaming. Come hang out, join the chat, drink some whiskey. And wind it down with us. We're going to be winding it down for about for 30, 40 minutes here. We got to
50, 60
soothe our jangled nerves.
What time is it? This game actually ended a little. I thought we were going to be doing this. I thought this game was going to go 12:30 when it started. But hey, we'll keep it around.
I'm going to try and let Bobby in, and then no one's going to be able to hear each other, and it's going to be a mess. But we'll see what happens.
I'm glad. I know that hopefully there's Raptors fans are joining us tonight too, because we'll keep it on good fun. But wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised that Bobby
Canada is closed, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Okay?
I wasn't surprised Canada's own showed up late to the show because he's got to write his obituary.
Canada's own. Right, he had to write a paper. He had to write something for Celtics blog. He had to write something for the Toronto Sun.
yeah, Raptors Net.
Raptors.net, the team page. He's right now tweeting sad emojis from the Raptors official Twitter account. So hold on, I'm gonna bring in sad Bobby. Okay,
yeah, bring him in here.
All right. Bobby.
Wow.
Can't hear him.
Roller coaster of emotions.
You can't hear him, Jimmy?
I can't hear him. I'll sign up.
So
we'll do the shuffle.
Here we go. Right, it's how it always goes. So you guys got me.
You got the floor.
Marcus Smart. What more can you say? I mean, the Celtics lose this game without that block. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't think there's any doubt in your mind. Norman Powell is running for a game-tying layup after being down 10 with just about 4 minutes left, and that's how it ends. Marcus Smart pinning him to the glass. Yep. Smart was phenomenal offensively again in this one, creating, hitting shots when no one else could. We know what he did in Game 6. What more can you say? I mean, this is something we're going to remember forever from Marcus Smart. It's his greatest series as a Celtic. Game 6 was probably his greatest game or one of his 5 greatest games. I don't have the numbers in front of me on his offense in this one. It wasn't pretty.
Shooting wasn't. This was like a Lowry game for Smart.
Yeah, 6 to 15.
It was inefficient offense, but he made all of those Marcus plays. He was 2 for 10 from 3. He had a couple of horrendous misses, couple of bad possessions too. But again, all of the things that you needed when you needed them, right?
Yeah, Jimmy's like, what was it? Halfway through the game, Jimmy's like, I got Game 4 vibes watching this game, and I'm like, you know what? Marcus Smart is putting out those vibes as well, just from the kind of game he was having. Like, this comes in a losing effort for the Celtics, man. This is gonna be a waste, another waste. Just like that was supposed to be the legacy game for Marcus Smart. That block, that's his legacy play right there. You'll be seeing that for years.
His greatest play as a Celtic to
LeBron.
This
seeing that for years.
Like the hyperbole keeps flowing, but it feels legit. Like that won the game because they couldn't hit the free throws. They couldn't
hit anything.
Yep, and that's what I wrote about this
afternoon. They were in the penalty from 7 minutes on. They could have been aggressive. They could have drove the whole game, really put the heat on Toronto. And when they did get to the line, they missed one out of 2 almost every trip. And then they just kept isoing and just letting Toronto trap them away from the basket and forcing terrible shots late in the clock for like the final 5.5 minutes. I mean, this is one of those games where like you're angry. It was a win, but it felt like more bad than good. And you're right. Smart bailed him out, and then Tatum bailed him out with that offensive foul on the Grant misses. Without those 2 plays, we'd be talking about some heroic friggin' Fred VanVleet 3 to give them the lead.
That one felt like the Game 2 heave, right? Like just huck it up there. The Raptors had no legs in this game. We thought that might happen with the way they played in the overtimes. And honestly, the whole game was the Raptors don't have it, but do the Celtics? Like, because they just kept giving them the opportunity to get back in the game through brick after brick after brick. The Celtics finished 23% from 3, and it felt just like that.
And what's funny is we were joking. Go ahead, Josue. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, if Jayson Tatum doesn't keep being aggressive and get the free throw line, you would have kept seeing these guys try to shoot their way to a win, and it would have been a recipe for disaster because Kemba Walker didn't do what I thought Kemba Walker was going to do. He had some bright spots, but let's face it, guys, I was feeling like this wasn't looking good for the Celtics at certain points throughout that fourth quarter or the second half overall, I guess, where Kemba Walker really struggled, and they managed to pull it out without having a huge game.
You know what's going to blow your mind out of this one? Jaylen Brown shot 9 for 10 from 2.
And then 1 for 8 from 3 or whatever it was. I forget.
1 for 7.
Yeah.
Like,
1 for 7.
Yeah.
He too, like when everything was going wrong from 3, these guys, and it wasn't natural, but they alertly got to the rim, and they shot so well from inside the rim in this game, as they have all series. They were on the offensive boards, and this just came down to Toronto having no life left because the Celtics win this game on turnovers, on offensive rebounds, and Toronto just not having enough shots in them down the stretch. And give them credit, they were down 10 with 4 minutes left and bring this to within 1 possession. Should have tied this game. That team never wanted to die, and they gave it everything they could in the series for 7 games.
Never wanted to die because the Celtics kept resuscitating them. I mean, again,
a little bit of both.
Look, again, I'm all for giving Toronto credit for being pesky and annoying, but I mean, the Celtics in the first half, the Celtics missed an insane amount of open looks. Okay, those weren't challenged shots, and then in the second half, they just forced themselves into. There was nothing resembling an offense from the Celtics.
Yeah.
They didn't run any sets. They didn't get into anything that they do. They just dribbled till there was 6 left on the clock, and whoever had the ball, it was up to them to frigging.
Or dish it to somebody who would have no chance.
Find a guy from
look what happened, John. A 24 Raptors run in the first quarter. I couldn't believe it. I would have never predicted that. That was
how many? They were ready to step on their throats.
It was Ibaka again.
Yeah, right.
Back-to-back threes.
How many times? I don't want to harp on all the things the Celtics did wrong, but the thing that was really pissing me off is that they would do that thing where they would drive, and then instead of getting the contact and maybe getting a foul or going up with it, they would dish it out to somebody, swing it, and then the shot clock would wind down and they'd heave up this awful shot, and then that would be the end of the drive. It was so many times that happened, and the shots were, John, I know you mentioned it earlier, the shots, again, were, I mean, you knew right off the bat when Jaylen Brown missed a couple of shots, I was like, here we go. It's going to be one of those games. And sure enough, it was. It was one of those games where they just couldn't hit any outside shots. It was there in the beginning of the game. It wasn't even bad shots. It was open shots that they were missing, right? That was part of the reason why Toronto clawed back the way they did, because they just couldn't help themselves out. But again, with Toronto, and we said this all series, there's like a cap to how good they are and the runs that they can go on, and they could never take full advantage of a mediocre to bad Celtics team. They never could do it. And this was a winnable game for the Raptors. I mean, Kyle Lowry, and I said this before the game, I said Marcus Smart needs to make it difficult for Kyle Lowry. Keep him at his average and make Van Fleet and Siakam beat you. Credit to Van Fleet. He did everything, had a very Van Fleet game.
Well,
Siakam, we'll get into Siakam later. But
Toronto's going to look at the series at Game 5 and be like, come on. Like, they had to show up for that game, and they got blown out wall to wall in that game. So all of a sudden in Game 6, you got to put 54 minutes worth of Lowry, 55 or whatever of Van Fleet, and they had nothing left today. I mean, you can't stretch Ibaka in the crunch time. He clearly was limited, and all of a sudden, I guess they went small again.
I feel like Lowry gained
Did you
5
guys,
pounds between Game 6 and 7, but
did you guys
that's just
mention,
me. Or he didn't
mention
sleep.
Marcus
He
All?
came out looking like, a little bit droopy.
Yeah, he was. I think he was still hurting from Game 6, and I think Bobby
Even
called
that jump shot like 2 minutes into the game. I was like, nope, not believing it.
No.
Lowry in 50 minutes was never going to be a good combination.
Yeah.
Do you guys think Marcus All's in the back right now, completely shaving his head and shaving his beard and just like trying to change his entire identity after today?
He
should. He probably should, right?
Yeah, he's probably in an ice bath right now, man. He's pumped. He's like, all right, I can just relax.
Poor Marcus All, great player, great career, but it looked like this wasn't a series, or at least tonight for sure was not a game that he belonged in.
Marcus All killed them. Pascal Siakam killed them. I thought you just mentioned him, Jimmy. Showed up in the fourth quarter.
Siakam?
Yeah, we might as well, because he's the reason the Raptors lost the series. 6 crap games. Tonight he shows up.
The whole series on him?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Raptors could have still won this series without him.
Yeah, but if he showed up at all, they would have won the series.
Yeah,
like
if Siakam shows up, the Raptors probably win one of those games that they lost.
If there are Toronto fans here, I want you to go earmuffs for a little bit, because Bobby's going to say some bad things about you right now. Okay?
Yeah.
Bobby,
I mean, this is a killer for the Raptors,
but it's truth bombs.
This is their last run, and Marcus All gone, Pascal Siakam. Like, Nick Nurse didn't even put any feathers on it. He was awful, and he called them out going into Game 5. Didn't get a game out of him there. The reporters, we talk so much about them. They're like, "Oh, you see a little something from Siakam tonight?" And he goes, "Nope." And now again in Game 7, I thought he was okay in the fourth quarter. He got a few shots to go in the lane.
He got to the basket a little bit, so he got.
He was a big part of that comeback run
again when he had Grant on him a little bit. Grant actually.
Grant got a huge stop on him.
He held his ground at one time, got a terrific stop. But I mean, early in the game, right, it wasn't just Jaylen. I remember he had Rob on a switch, Rob Williams, and he couldn't get around him there. I mean, he would want to make
another play. Yeah,
he was struggling the whole time.
And that first quarter killed them. They were dead slow coming out of this. The Celtics didn't take advantage as they have in the series. They just kind of meet at a stalemate made out of those first quarters. And 87 points. You're right, John. Like, they were just fighting for 100 in every game in the series. The half-court offense wasn't there. Siakam's a big part of that. And, the bench was a little overrated. How many times did we say 100 points? But all they really got was like a fractional performance out of Matt Thomas, a ton from Serge Ibaka, which you give him all the credit in the world. He's going to get paid this summer. And
you think so?
Did you watch him in this series?
Oh, I thought he was great. Every time, it was weird though. Every time he did something good, the announcers would be like, "Well, he used to be this, he used to be that." They were almost
because he
defensively he's not the
shot
same.
blocker, and he's lost that. But his ability to kind of to get buckets and then make the threes,
Absolutely, I think he's a stud, and he was their most consistent player. I've said that in past shows. I mean, all series, and I mean, I want to go back to Siakam. I mean, is there a bigger no-show star in recent memory? I mean, this wasn't a 1 game or 2 game thing. This was an
You
entire,
watched
allegedly
Kyrie against
entire
Milwaukee
bubble.
last year, right?
No, I think
Yeah,
this is
but
worse.
okay, I'll give you that. But this is worse. This is worse. This is through
This is
7
worse.
games.
This is worse.
This
And
is the bubble. I think from what I heard, he hasn't been himself since they've come down to Florida. I mean,
No.
and Raptors fans kept saying, "Oh, once Siakam gets going, you guys are toast." Once Siakam, dude, that guy's bags. I know a bellhop in the bubble that told me that guy's bags were packed 2 weeks ago behind the hotel desk. He's just been waiting to leave. He's just been waiting to leave.
He was going. I mean, I heard Chris Gasper today said there's something going on there behind the scenes. So, you know, it is
really?
what it is. But
I actually have no idea.
Yet.
No,
Let's just
no.
call it what it is. He's not ready. yet.
No. Yeah, it's
didn't
a
have
mix
a
of
terrible
both. It's a
first
mix of
round.
both, obviously.
No, he ran to the Celtics and got stomped on. Like, that's what happened. Look, what he was doing throughout the regular season, that doesn't always translate. And obviously, these unique situations probably magnifies things. Okay, if you want to blame the bubble, all right, you can say that. But I don't think there's like something going on in the sense of like whether it's something between the team or some sort of friction. I just think he's just not there yet. He's got to be the top guy.
Well, yeah, it's that too.
He's
I
not
mean,
ready yet.
yeah, he adjusted to a big new role that he wasn't ready for this year. And, you know, you mentioned even the first round, he shoots 42% against Brooklyn, and Brooklyn was throwing G Leaguers out there. So he didn't
he's
have
a G Leaguer too.
But even the 8 seeding game.
Yeah.
The 8 seeding games, he was balling. He wasn't. The thing is that he wasn't hitting threes or having those monster performances. That's what it is. You know, he never had like a
Siakam.
30-point game.
I don't
Siakam
buy that
with a
Siakam had something
little
going
push.
on. I think Siakam played hard. He just played poorly, you know?
Yeah,
It didn't look like he was
I
I don't think he was standing around like a guy who's
Did he play hard?
Yeah, I thought he did.
He ended up
He
on
was
the bench in
posting up
foul
a lot.
trouble.
He was
He was
trying.
posting
He
up.
just couldn't get anything to drop.
He
I
was
thought
shell shocked at the beginning of the series. That was.
I thought he did his best on defense. He was. I mean, Tatum ate his lunch a couple times tonight, but I mean, he stood his ground. I think it was. I don't think it was an effort thing. I think he was just off.
I think defensively, I don't have an issue with him. I think offensively, he no-showed, and they didn't really even. I don't even know if they even looked to him at certain points because they were just like, this guy's just not all there this series. I don't know. And even, I mean, Nick Nurse straight up called him out. Speaking of Nick Nurse, can I say this? Thank God I don't have to look at that freaking guy anymore for a while.
He's so tame tonight.
Unless I end up at the Olive Garden, that might be a second job, restaurant.
He was
manager.
tame. He was tame.
He was fine, but this is a series recap too, so I got to get my shots in.
Okay, the whole thing. Let's take the whole thing, right? Yeah, tell us everything you hated about Nick Nurse.
Well, I mean, it's been said many times in this show and nationally. I think a lot of people are sick and tired of watching Nick Nurse storm up and down the court and onto the court, huff and puff every single call that doesn't go his way, and then bitch and moan about it after the games to the referees. Even Raptors fans have to be getting tired of this guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if Raptors players are getting tired of this guy because I certainly would be if I was on the team.
Yeah, that's my mind. No, seriously, I was wondering if someone said something.
Mr. Coach of the Year getting all the credit for box and one. I mean, we're talking about box and one like it's Bill Belichick drew it up. I mean, what are we talking about here?
That's the stuff they used to put on a young Joe Sway back in friggin' 12-year-old
Box
ball.
and one that was me, man.
Box and one. Somebody's got to contain that Joe Sway character.
Nick Nurse gets
back
all the
when he
credit.
was 12. I bet you were the same height when you were 12. Were you one of those guys? Were you one of those guys? You were that height at 12?
No. Minor growth spurt. Come on, man.
I was.
You
were jumping center as a 12-year-old, and then you were too short to play point guard
before junior year, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but listen, guys. The Celtics
I lost
survived
Bobby
it.
again. I'm gonna bounce. I lost Bobby again.
You lost Bobby? All right, take off.
Oh, I can't hear Bobby either, man.
Really?
Yeah.
None of us can hear Bobby. Is Bobby talking? It's you and me, buddy.
You could hear me.
We're going Metro West style here. Newton Needham.
Great reference.
Let's see what we got here.
Ooh, New Hampshire
Jimmy,
back. Wait,
yeah?
you guys couldn't hear?
What were you just doing right now, Jimmy? What were you about to do right now?
He's popping his sweatshirt.
I was about to take my shirt off. I
promised
I was going to take my shirt off, but I'll wait.
Yeah. All right, we're going to try the whole gang. We'll see what Bobby's got. Bobby.
Yep, I was saying final line on Siakam. You got me 38% from the field, 12% from three. He couldn't have come up any worse. In 40 minutes a game, 15 points. Like, that's your best or second best player. And if that's what you get in front of him, then you're done.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were saying, Bobby, was this whole like, it's even their best. It felt like at their highest level, like you would have needed outstanding games. And again, to their credit, there was a couple games where they took out two of the Celtics' big three. Celtics survived 3 bad Kemba games and a bad 1.5 bad Jaylen, two bad Jaylen, 1.5 bad Tatums, So they came.
I'm Nick Nurse, that's driving me crazy. Like,
so
the fact that Kemba went out there, had 5 points at halftime, and you just didn't,
Yeah, so you forced Kemba into 3 out of 7 bad games. You took the Celtics out of their game a few days, but again, you need those Toronto players. They all have to be good at the same time, I think, for them to have a chance to have won this series, and they never got that because Siakam never got going. Or you had Lowry was good in the wins, very mediocre in the losses. I mean, Lowry had 3 outstanding games, couple so-so, couple dog shit games.
That's what I was gonna say. They needed Lowry again, and Bobby brought this up after Game 6, and I was thinking the same thing, but it looked like it was worse than I thought. Yeah. He was pretty tired from that Game 6. Like he was just gassed, and he had a little bit of energy preserved for that fourth quarter where he was he put them in position to have a chance, but that was it.
You could see them in that first quarter. They were lagging. They weren't getting up the floor well. They weren't getting those transition breaks. What is that?
The King of the North.
Smart. Marcus
Who's
Smart.
that? Smart? Wow.
Marcus Smart going to King of the North.
Yeah, so the difference between these two teams was ultimately, you mentioned it, John, you get some bad Tatum games, you get some bad Kemba games, but they show up. Like, Tatum wasn't great tonight, scores 29. Game 6, he wasn't great. I believe he had 29 in that one as well. The Raptors, meanwhile, they got nothing from Gasol, next to nothing from Siakam. Like they didn't, negative from those guys, and you can't survive that. Like those are crucial rotation players that just gave them nothing. Credit to Lowry, credit to Van Fleet, and credit to OG, who was phenomenal and still was bringing in this game. He stepped up in a big way for some of those guys that were missing. But they just had too many missing pieces throughout this one to make up for, how steady the Celtics were. Like they weren't great, but this is why I didn't mind Jaylen Brown shooting 30 last game, because he kept bringing it. He was putting up points. It wasn't efficient, but he was pressing them. And again, in this one, he was ginormous. He's another big reason you win this series.
It's funny you bring up OG, Bobby, because heading into this game, like literally seconds before the game's going to start, I'm like, wait a minute. Are we sleeping on OG? Like, we really didn't talk too much about OG having an impact on this game. Right. And then you look at the box score. What was he, 1 for 3 or 1 for 4? Like, it's funny with Game 7s, man. Like, I feel like you just can't really predict someone like OG or like one of those wing guys who've been consistent throughout the series. But when it comes down to it, face-to-face, Game 7, prime time, who's going to show up, who's going to ask for the ball, who's going to want to be in those situations. And I feel like OG
they were awful tonight.
OG shot away in a big way.
Yeah. And again, if you lose this, sound the alarms, because the Raptors did not go out here with an effort to claim this. Like, they didn't look great in any quarter. They didn't put together a single full quarter in this game. None of these performances scared me across the board from them tonight. Like, Ibaka had that little run in the second like he does, but that was about it. And you look up and down, they try to get Matt Thomas going. He's right out of the game. Powell was okay again. And this is just comes back to what you guys said about this team. You're ultimately right. There wasn't enough punch from any one of those guys individually, except for Lowry in Game 6, to really just go out there and grab the series. And the Celtics, even on their most mediocre night ever like they had tonight, still got 50 from their main 2 players, which is enough.
Wow, Bobby. You hear the way Bobby said Powell's name like that? Jeez, how soon they forget. That dude saved this team's season last game.
He did.
You're right. He didn't give them much, but like
it was a testament to what we were saying. Again, it's I don't want to play the I told you so game the whole time, but we were saying this, like, Toronto had to get creative. I mean, Nurse with that Game 6 lineup is something they didn't do all season, and he's like, I got to do something. So Game 6 with your life on the line, you throw out a lineup you've never really run during the entire season. And then they did it again tonight. They were playing lineups that they hadn't really played before. And they got production out of it. So credit to Nurse for trying it, but it also speaks to kind of the level of desperation he was probably feeling, which is like, I got to come up with something here, because if I just roll it out there and we go toe to toe, we just probably don't have enough juice to get this done.
So,
yeah, and
Bob,
go ahead.
We're still talking about the Raptors because we have a lot of Raptors fans in the chat, and we're talking about Kyle Lowry as the guy. He's 34 years old, got a lot of mileage, by all means can still play. But what about the Raptors team kind of moving forward here? Do they have a future that Raptors fans can be, pumped about, or is there a lot of question marks here as we
I think
move
he's
on?
asking if you want to see Chris Paul go to the Raptors. I think
Will you still have a job next year is what they're saying as a Raptors analyst.
Yeah, exactly.
All of those questions right there.
They're
I'll
fortunate.
hang up and listen.
They're fortunate. I'll say this about them because this very well could have been the end. But they're fortunate.
But they said it last year too.
There's no one really with money this summer. They're going to have a dogfight out for them to keep Fred VanVleet, and it might ultimately get too high for them to want to go there. They might have to let Fred VanVleet go this summer.
Right.
But I think they can retain the rest of this. They have enough pieces, I feel like, to make a trade. Like Josue, you mentioned Chris Paul. If they're in the game of trying to lure Giannis, as they certainly are, like that's their only viable move to get back to contention in the near future. I think they're going to have to pull off a move like that this summer. They're going to have to be aggressive because they're going to lose VanVleet. Mm-hmm. I think that's too much to lose to have a viable case to sign Giannis. So they're going to have to bring a star in here. And as we say, Gasol's probably done. Ibaka, I think they can keep, but again, he's an older guy. So the good thing about them, though, is they've produced guys like VanVleet, like Boucher, like Siakam from their G League system, and they may be able to do that again with another guy here, like Syracuse's own O'Shea Brissett. I'd love to see that.
Well, it is interesting, too. You're talking about like what they're going to be next year. But these two teams, it is remarkable considering based off of the off seasons that they had, both were eulogized and not considered to be contenders. And they're toe-to-toe about to head to the Eastern Conference Final, where you would argue either team would have probably been favorites. So it is, it's really hard to guess what's going to happen. Before we put a bow on this game and look ahead to Miami, I do want to talk about Tatum. We did talk about individual plays that obviously the rebound, was 1 in 1A with the Marcus Smart block for the 2 plays of the game. You can make an argument for either, but it is interesting again, just based on his stat line. He had 29 points last game, shot about roughly the same percentage, had 15 boards versus 12, kept the turnovers down more this game. But didn't this feel like a completely different, much more in control, letting the game come to him version of Tatum versus what we saw last game where it was like, and sure, he had a lapse or two where you're like, ugh. But
in the most important moment,
he had he did. But turnovers later, absolute killers. But it felt the whole game. It felt like he was playing a much different game than last game, where we were exceedingly critical of him, despite the fact that he had monstrous stats and nearly a triple double. It just, he felt out of sorts, and this one felt in control.
I feel like he had like the what's the way to put it? He had like the biggest head game. Like it was almost like everything was going on. Like the Raptors were throwing everything at him, and he had to like meticulously like go through each situation and see what was going to come up on the other end. And I feel like towards the end, when he made that big mistake, I was like, okay, here we go again. Like, Tatum's going to do this again. But obviously, what he did before was enough. But I got to give credit to Tatum for being composed enough to not only elect to start chucking up threes or to try to dribble through triple teams like we saw in Game 6, because I did think that was going to happen. Instead, he was more aggressive. He was smarter. He took that left step when he had to and took those tough threes. Right. He had to make those decisions whether to take a tough three or to try to go to the lane and try to draw a foul. And that's what he did time and time again. So I give credit to him because he was so composed and he was able to go through those curveballs that were thrown at him.
Yeah, and he had to because they needed it because Kemba was struggling so badly. The offense had to flow through somebody. But he felt like he made the right choices between not forcing it but also being aggressive. And it was a tough balance where the other night he was trying to do the same thing because Kemba was a no-show. Right. But it felt like everything felt like a force.
It just surprised me so much when Kemba came out the way he did in the second half. I'm like, wait a minute now. They need him now. I thought that was when going to turn it on. And that's when it got even more difficult for Tatum.
Yeah.
For me, I guess I remember some of the moments where Tatum was dribbling too much, a couple turnovers, not shooting when he had the first open look, and almost like doing the thing where he would drive to the hoop and then get, I'm not going to say scared, but, second guess the drive and then dish it out and then force a rushed shot. So I'm not going to say it was an amazing game by him, but it's nice to see him. He scored 29 points. Now, obviously 9 from 23 from the field isn't ideal, but if your guy's scoring 29 points for you in a game 7 and he's, 19 years old, I mean, there's really
29 points in a game in which the winning team had 92.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a third. It's about a third of their points. Buckets were
hard
hard to come by tonight.
And I know you mentioned it off the top, but that rebound on the 2 missed free throws, that was absolutely massive. I mean, and he didn't have to do that, right? I mean, he could have easily backtracked like 90% of the guys do on.
There's a good case.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that was a foul, to be honest, on him. It didn't really look like there was much of a foul there, but I'm not going to complain about it.
No, that rebound. There's a good case that they lose the game if he doesn't get that. So that
oh
was
my god,
ginormous.
that felt like. Here come 2 misses, and then they're going to come down, and Van Fleet's going to hit a 3, or like Williams is going to overplay and foul somebody on a 3. It just felt like that's what was going to happen.
And out of nowhere, 3 for 8 free throw shooting down the stretch until
unbelievable
the line. That came out of nowhere.
Here's Stevens talking about.
Oh,
I think this is talking about Tatum.
It's like Jayson Tatum's passing has just gone up a level in. Really, since the restart happened. Is that something you're seeing as well?
Yeah, I mean, he just has a great feel for the game, and he's seeing a lot of different coverages. In this series, he saw everything you could possibly see. So he's done a great job handling it. I thought the 2 plays of the night were Smart's block and Tatum's rebound. Those were both incredible effort plays. By 2 of our best players. So we're lucky to move on, against a really special Toronto team and organization. But yeah, Tatum's really good. Does a lot of really good things.
So again, we talked about those were clearly the 2 plays of the game. But again, Steven says it there. I really think this is as hard as Jimmy, you hear us okay?
Hey, yeah, I'm good.
Oh, yeah, sorry. This is as hard as Tatum's had to work in over an extended period of time that I can remember. I mean, and as Josue said earlier, it was, he had to pick those spots because they were coming at him and they were making him make decisions. And, does he force it? Does he continue to dribble? Does he ISO? Does he pull up for 3? And they made him they made him work and they made him make choices all day long.
Yeah, exactly.
And think of that. Think of that contrasted against what they saw in the first round too. It came so easily. Ball handler.
Anything you wanted. He was just. It felt like he had 3 feet of space every time he had the ball because people were like, "I'm terrified of this guy." But here they were blitzing him. They were all over him. The switches, the traps. I mean, it was
right. And how many guys would have tried to just shoot their way out of that? And I can't help but think of someone like Paul George, right? Let's just say, for example, someone that was Jayson Tatum's age. Like, do you remember that? Someone like that would have chucked up at least 30 shots tonight. Jaylen Brown chucked up 30 shots in Game 6. Tatum never got frustrated or never got too high, never got too low.
Wow, I'm looking at.
So I'm not gonna go crazy about him on a facilitator out of the series because we talked about in Game 6 he was a big reason they lost that game, just the looseness with the ball, and you saw it again here tonight. Like, he had critical turnovers, he made bad decisions on the ball. Like, I think of him fading away on a deep 2 against Van Fleet, but you take the balance out of it and you use the perspective of this was his first big challenge as this team's point forward, essentially. Like, at this point, he's their point more than Kemba is.
Yeah, you had to run the offense through him. You really needed to there because Kemba, I mean, that was strange to me that the Celtics just kept allowing that to happen. Kemba was your worst player out there for stretches of time, and he had the ball in his hands for 50, 60, 70% of each possession, and that just made no sense to me. It's like you had to find a way to kind of move him off the ball, get the ball out of his hands because he was just dribbling the air out of it in circles, trying to fight through double teams and get into the lane to try to create, and people are collapsing, and it just became hectic. He was just really struggling with it, and he had the ball way too much.
I think he split the double team like once, like successfully.
Couple times.
Couple times, and that was it.
Got a couple pull-ups. It felt like, okay, he could get there, but
Kemba?
Yeah, Kemba.
I know. I mean, but they suffocated him. I mean, I know people want to look at the stat line. They want to look at the stat line and say, oh, this is your max guy, and he only scored however many points it was, and he seemed non-existent. But the way they're playing defense on him has to open things up for the other guys who are missing all these open shots that we've already talked about. and second guessing their driving to the hoop. I mean, Kemba Walker is still very valuable to the Celtics on the court, whether or not he's the one scoring or not.
Yeah, but Jimmy, I hate to say it though, it doesn't get easier against Miami. Like he's going to struggle a lot against that pick and roll defense. Like whether it's Bam on the switch or whether it's one of those corners. Yeah. Worst come to worst, if he gets hot, they'll put one of the wings on him. And you know what I mean? Like I just think it's going to be tough for him. I don't think it'll be as tough as the Toronto series. I think Toronto's the toughest defense the Celtics will see. But yeah, I don't think it gets easier. Like the way he shot it, you know, a lot of those open looks he was missing. Like he hasn't really built in a lot of confidence in me that he could continue to make those. I feel more comfortable when he's in open spaces and making his way to the hoop, or when he pulls up at that free throw line. Like they did a really good job of taking away the pull up. Like that was his bread and butter, and he couldn't get to it at all throughout this series. Bobby's gone.
What happened?
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear him either. I just didn't want to say anything because I was like, shoot, I'm gonna have to dip out again. This sucks.
No, Bobby, you're out.
I was just gonna be like, Bobby, you're totally right, man. You nailed it without hearing a damn word he said.
He's like, what'd you say, Joe? So keep going, man.
Bobby, we can't hear you. Jump out and back in, buddy.
Still can't hear you, bud. What I was gonna say is we're giving the Raptors a lot of credit, deservedly so, for their defense. But I mean, the Celtics defense tonight was pretty suffocating in its own right. I mean,
oh my God,
that was the difference. I mean, was it 32 or 31 points off turnovers?
Yeah.
I mean, the points off turnovers was the difference in this game. I mean, they were extremely active on the defensive end, just causing havoc. It didn't matter who you were. I mean, a lot of getting out in transition. I mean, and they needed to, because like I said, when those outside shots aren't falling, you need to find other ways to get your points. So getting those points off turnovers like that and in transition was the key to them winning this game.
Yeah, but how big was Marcus Smart with those turnovers, man?
Massive. I mean, okay, we should talk about it. I mean, MVP of the series. I mean, who are you giving it to?
Hands down.
I think it's Marcus.
Probably him, right? I mean, over the 7 games.
You can argue Tatum too, but I think Marcus overall. Like
I think you do.
I'm gonna quickly. We're gonna try to get Bobby back. We're gonna hear from Jaylen Brown here, also talking about Tatum and their performance tonight.
Sure.
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be alongside of those guys. I talked to those guys last night, and I told JT it was just an honor to be able to play with them and grow. You know, we've learned so much from each other, and we, you know, have grown so much. It was a great opportunity, a great day to display growth. And Kemba, you know, since he's got here, his energy, it's just been great for us. You know, he's a great guy. He's a humble guy, you know, and anything he asks me to do, I'll do, because I know he's doing it and telling me because he wants me to be better. And I'm appreciative. I'm just grateful to be on the team and to be in a position where I can, you know, have a voice and all of that. So all I can say is I'm grateful, man. I'm just thankful.
There it is.
Blessings on blessings on blessings. That's
Grateful
what grateful
and thankful.
right there.
But you can tell this was a huge relief. You know,
ginormous.
They knew they could have, should have. They knew they almost pissed this whole series away. You know, and
0.5
game 3 and then game 6 potentially. You know, and just you know, I think they would have really been bummed out. I mean, of course, but really, you know, there's playoff exits, and then there would have been this, which would have been really devastating. So the relief they have to feel, like they know they didn't play their best, but they have to feel great about surviving this.
Especially this game. This was the first one that I finally agreed with you guys. Like, the Raptors didn't have anything tonight.
Wow.
So if you
took them 7 games to finally
this
get
was the first night I felt that they were lagging. Dude, look at how the fourth quarter started. They threw away 6 turnovers like it was nothing. The Raptors, that is.
Yeah.
Like, that's a gift. And the Celtics still made it so hard on themselves tonight. They're pointing those shots. Like, they made it a grind.
How did you just come to this realization in Game 7? The Raptors got blown out twice and played a garbage game tonight.
Well, I give them more credit for Game 4 than you guys did. I mean, they had a steady 7-8 point lead throughout that.
Okay, we'll give you one game. We'll give you Game 4.
Sure, but I mean, they had 3 dog shit games at least.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2 blowouts and then tonight, and then you know, and sure, I mean. They played a couple of good games, but I mean, most of this series, you didn't see a Raptors effort where you were like, they came out and won this game. I felt, you know,
except for 6.
That was the one where it was like, okay, this was a ballsy performance. That was a.
But
really,
even 6, they took them double overtime. I mean,
it did, and I think we could have won it.
I would hope, and
which, by the way, the referee's 2-minute report basically said, yeah, the Celtics probably should have won that game.
Yeah, which I expected to get the whistle
by
at
the way.
time throughout this because of that.
And they didn't, but
I mean, Raptors fans have watched this team all season, and I can't imagine that at least 4 of these games. I can't imagine those are the Raptors that they watched most of the season. I have a feeling that the Raptors kind of ran out of gas here, and you know what? That's okay because they, I think, exceeded everyone's expectations based on what happened to them in the offseason.
It's a matchup thing, though. Do you think? I think the Celtics with Gordon would have really run them.
They would have.
They would have really run it here. Because every game, again, we always talk about it, but every game where you had, okay, Jaylen's down, Kemba's a little off, you'd have more people to pick it up. Thank God Marcus Smart showed up, because if not for that, they were doomed. Well, he didn't have Marcus Smart offense much in the Philly series, so this was enormous to get him the performances that he had this time. But again, Hayward just changes the dynamic here. I think Toronto, when you always have at least two offensive players on the floor at all times, it makes a huge difference. And so hopefully you get him back. Again, we saw him here.
He didn't look good.
Yeah, and he actually looked good.
He's back in the bubble.
Jimmy?
The workout stuff looked pretty ginger. His tricep was pretty strong.
He's doing more than I thought he would be doing. I mean, when they said a couple of days ago, like, he's not close or whatever, I thought maybe he'd still be in a boot for what the hell. I mean, I didn't know.
I was looking at his, what's the word? The gate,
the
GA. Yeah.
G-A-I-T, gate.
Don't get Joe Sway going on the gate.
Yeah, man. Steve has put me on.
Yeah, he got you. Joe Sway's learned a lot this series.
Man, had to look that one up.
Yeah.
Hey, and I hope you guys learn too. Like, the Raptors.
I've learned nothing. I've learned nothing.
We learned that we knew exactly.
I learned that I was right from the moment the series started.
Oh, all right. You all had Celtics in 7. I thought Jimmy did before he changed it twice.
Speaking of we knew it from the start. There was a stat on the broadcast tonight, and I can't explain. I can't say exactly what the stat was, but it was basically just saying, like, whichever team shot better has won the game.
Oh, there we go. Shut the show off, John.
That was the stat.
The stat was basically every time a team won the 3-point battle, they won the game.
The game.
That's all we were saying. Guys. Is like I feel like we overanalyzed this series.
Yep,
a ton.
Shut the show off, John. We're done.
That's it.
Just
Wait, so if
up.
you shoot better, you win. Hey, Bobby,
I used to cover Syracuse basketball, and Boeheim would always say, if they won, we made shots. If they lost, we couldn't hit shots tonight. That's all he would say in the post game. It would drive me crazy.
Yeah. Well, look, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. Like sometimes it's you took those shots because that's all they gave you, and they weren't very good shots to begin with, so you missed a lot of them because it's not normally what you do. You make a team play left-handed. You make them shoot the types of shots that they don't like, it's not in their comfort zone. But the Celtics swung the ball around and hit corner threes all freaking season, I mean,
look at the series mostly. Like,
and Jaylen Brown, Jaylen and Marcus had a million open threes that they just were clanking left and right most of the series. We're going to hear from Kemba Walker. Everybody's celebrating Kemba making a trip to the finals for the first. Doing anything for the first time. Every single step he takes in the playoffs is a first. But let's hear from
Baby's
Kemba.
First.
Yeah.
Man, I've been in the playoffs 2 times before this. So, from that, and then the last time I was in the playoffs was 5 years ago. So, to be here in my first year and accomplish this, and we're not waiting to the East Conference Finals. To play against a really good Miami Heat team, and we have a chance to advance past that. So it's big time. It's a special feeling for me.
So there you go, special for Kemba. How do we think again? We talked about it's not going to be a picnic, but this was a really rough series for him. How do you see it? Bobby, how do you see it going against Miami with Kemba?
Well, their guards are easier to get by for the most part. I don't think they have a defensive stopper at the guard position. Now, they're going to play zone too, and they're going to do it better than Toronto. They have a better coach than Toronto, so they're going to get into how
better than coach of the year? Whoa! How much better can you get than the best?
No, Spoelstra's been the best going for a while. Yeah, he's great. And so they're going to... The thing is, you're going to get those forward attention on Tatum and Brown, which is what's fortunate for Kemba. And I think Goran Dragic, Duncan Robinson, those types, Tyler Hero, those guys aren't defensive guards. So I heard you guys say you might have a tough time in that series too. If Tatum
Brown, Dragic, I don't know. Dragic he'll surprise you. He's very streaky on offense, but defensively he's not too bad. But I was talking more on like the switches though, right? Like Bam isn't Joel Embiid, right? He's not Marc Gasol. Like,
that's a good point.
He can stay up there on that perimeter and defend it very well.
He'll swallow up guards on those switches. You're right.
Yeah.
So, he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a huge problem.
Yeah. I mean, they lost to them earlier in the bubble without Butler, right?
Without Butler, yeah.
And it was a pretty decisive loss. They got dominated in the fourth.
Miami looked like the better team in that game.
Yeah.
And again, there's going to be a lot of our conversations throughout this series. 3-point shooting. Don't let Duncan Robinson go off. Don't let him get going.
Right.
You know, they got other guys too. They can really get going.
And that's a steep difference from what we saw here in Toronto, right? Yeah, who like on their best night was 46%.
I can't watch. I'm so glad. Look, it was stressful. Some people might call it entertaining. I didn't think it was that entertaining because it was so hard to watch Toronto not be able to shoot. You know, and again, it might have just been
for tonight.
Period. They were gross all series, but like you can credit two good Celtics defensive effort. A lot of these games really made it hard for them, but it was just gross. You know, basketball, and it got tighter and tighter as things went on. I mean, this game was a rock fight. I thought it was going to be first team to 80 wins the way it was going. You know, so.
Let's move on. So Miami.
It'll be a different series here.
I do want to get into it because they're so interesting. The defense, as Josue said, is scary.
And you said the bench we talked about before.
Yep.
You know, you really want to try to. You'd love to get Hayward back here. You know,
for like 6-7 maybe. Like that's going to be a week and a half if it gets that far. Like he's going to need some rapid progress.
I feel like it's going to be NBA Finals if
I'm there too.
That's what I've always thought too. Is you got to get all the way there to see any.
And even if he's healthy enough to hit the court, like what Brad's going to have him for 11 minutes or so. You know what I mean? Like how effective could he really be? But,
again, it's always. It's value over replacement. Even if he comes back at 80%, you're just saying at least it's not. I'll take 80% of Hayward over 150% of Semi.
Right? You know? No. But my point is, like, do you throw him into a game 7 like that though? You know what I mean? Like maybe.
I'll be back. I got to reset.
All right, Jimmy. We're just gonna do Miami for a little bit and then we'll move on. And then we'll probably wrap it up. It's late. It's late.
Yeah, Miami is. They're guardable. I think the Celtics have the personnel to guard them, especially since their central guy isn't a shooter in Jimmy Butler. And they have a ton of shooting around him, but if any team stops 3-point shooting, it's the Celtics. Like, they do get out on the shooters for the most part. Tice, when he's on, can rotate on the guys on the perimeter. So defensively, I think they'll be okay. Offensively, against that defense, it's going to be another challenge. And it's going to take some more Tatum discipline. It's going to take more Brown cutting and action off the ball. Like, this is going to be another 7-game series without a doubt in my mind. Like, this is going to be some big swings back and forth. And there's going to be a lot of respect both ways. I think you guys believe in the Heat as much as I do too.
I think they're tough. Again, it's no disrespect to what Toronto had accomplished. I just felt watching.
Yeah, Miami's better than them. Yeah.
Watching in games against the Celtics, I just didn't believe that this team could beat Boston, and they pushed it beyond where I would have expected it to go. I really think that this should have been a 5-game series, maybe 6. But I think Miami's going to be really tough out.
And they don't have any lame ducks like Toronto had either that we talk about. Like, everybody on that team can contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you look at the defense that we saw from the Celtics, especially in games 1 and 2, like that would really crush the Miami Heat. You know, the transition defense that we're talking about all series long. But yeah, you know, Jimmy Butler, that's one thing that he doesn't have in his arsenal. You know, he's not really a quote unquote, 3-point shooter, knockdown shooter. But man, he can, if he has a couple of signature games in this one, it will go a long way, not only for the Heat, but the Celtics will be in a tough spot because, I mean, the guy is a killer. Like, late in the fourth quarter, we've seen him do those type of things before. So
right. So we're looking at, I think they're saying, what's 9:15? Is that?
They're saying Tuesday.
Tuesday, game 1?
Game 1, Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's Tuesday, game 1. You got a little time to kind of pull it together, but then you got, the Jay Crowder revenge series here, so we got to watch out.
And Kelly's going to be a problem.
And
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I can't hear Bobby, but I just want to –
All right, last thought. We're just going to do give us a thought on the Heat, Jimmy, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, we don't have to. We can keep going. But what I wanted to say was, I'm so pumped about this series because I think Celtics fans are, if they don't know they don't like Jimmy Butler, they're gonna find out that they don't like Jimmy Butler. He's just one of those guys that plays so hard, gets right up in the opponent. You know, he's tough. He kind of gives me Dwayne Wade vibes, and Dwayne Wade was a guy that Celtics fans hated because he was like sneaky dirty and obviously super talented. And I think, I mean, a lot of people, and sorry, Raptors fans, but I think that the Heat might end up being a bigger rival to the Celtics in the future. I think they're lined up for success, sort of moving forward here, and I can see this being like the beginning of a budding rivalry.
You're another team hunting Giannis too.
I think it's going to be
they are
really
hunting Giannis,
fun.
right?
Yeah, I put him over the top of the list for the Giannis sweepstakes.
What is interesting about this series, and so this is the Celtics' third Eastern Conference Finals in the last 4 years. This is the first one where you're playing an opponent where you don't feel like it's house money. You know, like, oh, we'll give it our best shot, but they're clearly way better.
Right.
And, it'll be really an accomplishment just to make a series out of it. This actually feels like one where I'm going to guess the Celtics are going to be favored. In this one, Vegas favorites, and by the analysts and the pundits, even though I think we view it as a pretty dead even series. But if not slight favorites, pretty much even money to get to the finals, and they haven't really been in that position for several years. Each of these runs has always felt like an overachievement, and
right. 2010.
Right, and where now you're looking at it like they should probably get to the finals here, and then
It feels like it's their series to lose, but I feel like the Heat also look at it like we can beat the Celtics, right? Because the Heat are hot. No
and again,
intended.
Hayward changes everything here, so it's going to be a hard one again.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that Hayward, if he comes back, I hope that he's capable of playing the way that he was playing before he got hurt. Because the last thing you want to do is bring a guy off the bench that's playing at 70% and throws everybody off. I don't think they'll do that. But
I wouldn't expect anything close to 100% when you get him.
No,
but I don't expect 100%. But I mean, what do you expect? 14 minutes.
As you said,
and,
you're expecting. I mean, guys, we've all played basketball at much lower levels, and we've all sprained many ankles. Even when you feel good enough to start running, are you cutting and jumping and it's. I mean, it's
go up the court, come back, and do it again. You start, yeah.
This is a grade 3 ankle. It's stuff that's fully torn. It's this one's gonna hurt, and he's gonna have reduced mobility. So I think you're looking at best 75 or 80% Hayward the rest of the year, if and when you get him.
Yeah.
Which he'll take.
So
I'm not counting on the series either.
Yeah, me neither. I'm thinking NBA Finals if anything.
If they get there. So we got days and days to break down the Heat matchup. So
I got one more thing on
this
tonight,
one.
actually.
We're gonna we needed this for this series because this was stressful.
This is a series that drives you to drink.
Talk about stressful.
For sure.
Last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We didn't. I do want to say Grant's trip to the free throw line. That was the peak stress of tonight in his closing minutes, and I give him a little credit. He played all right down the stretch, but man, he made it nerve-wracking.
But we were talking about it, like his eyes right before, like I tweeted that GIF, from Airplane with the pilot dripping sweat, from the Celtics account. That's what I felt like Grant's face was like, he was like, right before he shot him, like his eyes were this. Yeah, his eyes were this big. He's like, can you bring somebody in for me? Ow, my
kept looking at the sideline.
My arm, it's broken.
But I feel like he noticed that. Like he recognized that as soon as he fouled out, he was like, "Oh crap, I got to take these free throws."
You're nervous when you barely nick the rim on the front end, or you launch it back rim friggin' loud brick, and he just clang, right off the back iron. I was like. There was he was just right. And the second one was the same, just a clanker off the back iron. So
thank you, Toronto. It was fun.
Final thoughts?
Thank you, Toronto. If there's any Toronto in the chat anymore, I don't think so. You know how I know? Because when I just look over at YouTube, it's not only the views that we have, which were in the thousands last game, but it's the likes. And on Toronto wins, when we had a Toronto-dominated crowd, about 40 to 50% of people liked the show, and on Celtics wins, it's 90. We've been up over 90% most of the night, which means
let's go.
it's mostly Celtics. But to the Toronto fans, who are probably done with us because they really only came here to shove it in our faces after wins. Thank you for hanging out. It was fun. You guys were a riot and passionate, and this was amazing. So we enjoyed that a lot.
We'll see them again. These two teams are going to have epic battles.
They will.
This is just the beginning.
Yeah. No, this was good. Between Philly and Toronto, it was so good to have those fan bases here just yelling at us the whole time. As far as Miami is concerned, they don't have any fans, so I freaking dare you to show up.
I couldn't tell you what Heat fans are like. I've never met one, so
no idea. At least they don't have to not show up to the first quarter and then not leave in the fourth quarter of these games. Okay?
Oh no, they drink in the special club that's in the arena. They rather do that.
Right, but I'm saying they won't have the option here to not be in the stands because they can't be in the stands.
No, they had bar stools all over their concession stands. That still blows my mind. Like the first time I was in Miami to take in a game. Obviously, this is when LeBron was still there, so there's a lot of people there. And there's just people chilling. They'd rather just chill and watch the game on TV. It's like, dude, you have a ticket. Go to your seat.
People spend 60% of the game there looking in the other direction. They're not even – they're like the game's behind them like it's like an afterthought.
Right.
It's like I didn't really come to see the band. I just came to drink. Like they just give a shit at all.
Yeah, we'll take our 20 pictures, and pose, but that's it.
Right.
Yeah, they ain't like those bars.
So imagine if you're that apathetic when you went to the game, imagine how little they care about this shit in the bubble,
They just now gonna start watching. We'll see. Maybe they'll come in. Maybe they'll chime in now.
Maybe. We invite you all. So, Jimmy, you have anything left or we're done?
The last thing I co-signed, thanks to all the Raptors fans who joined in. Thanks to the Raptors for, making it a fun series. Both teams played hard. I'll give it one of those. But as somebody in the comments said, the Raptors are going to be listening to emotional Drake songs now for a little bit.
I know.
So,
poor Drake.
all the way back to Toronto.
Put that Scorpions TV on, guys.
In their feelings.
Drink on us, man. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, though, this is probably one of my favorite series I've covered. I haven't been covering Celtics for a long time, but the last few years, I don't know, this is up there. This is a series that really threw me for a loop, and you didn't know what to expect, and it really was a chess match between two coaches, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. Obviously, this whole setup is new. It's unique. We've never done this before, so this was fun. And this series was it blew Philly by a mile. Obviously, it blew them out of the water.
I know. We look back to go. We look forward to going back to covering things in person. But until then, this will do. So
we'll be watching these, man. We'll be looking back on these years from now.
I know. But yeah, I still can't wait to get back in the building. So
me too.
Until then, we're going to sign it off. So I'm going to let Bobby, we're just saying bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Okay. We'll see.
Goodbye to Mr. Prime Minister himself.
Yeah, I appreciate that love, but I was proven right. They were tougher than you guys thought. So.
He was right. Like we said, Jimmy and I were proven right. Celtics had this one all the way. Thank you again for Josue Pavone. Yeah, Josue Pavone from Heavy.com. Jimmy Toscano and Bobby Manning, Celtics blog, CLNS Media. Again, thanks for watching the series. We're so psyched. We would have been incredibly depressed if this was the last show of the year because we're having fun. We're in a good groove. So we look forward to Heat and possibly beyond. So we will be talking about the game leading up, and we'll see you guys all back here on Tuesday night.
Heat the conference finals.
Yep.